Morning, folks. Beautiful day outside. We've got a great show for you. I hope your coffee is as good as mine. I'm telling you, this is a great news day. We're going to get right into it. Fill your cups, grab your pen and paper for the round table at the end of the show. It is going to be a good one, folks. Let's do this. What a day, folks. What a day. We have some good news, some very, very, very good news. The government will not be shutting down. The Republicans blinked. They passed a spending bill that is going to keep the government open through the next the first of the year through January 19th and February 2nd. That's right. They have metastasized this cancer on our government funding process known as the debt ceiling. They have actually split it in two now. You can't make this stuff up. They have literally split it in two. But last night we had, and it's just fascinating from a political point of view. The things that are going on are just amazing. Um, this was the final vote last night. We had Republicans, 127 voting yay, 93 voting no. That's your freedom caucus, folks. But more importantly, you had 209 Democrats with two voting nay. We'll talk about them in a minute. Voting to keep the government open. There's your final vote. There's your final vote. If you look at these numbers, you know, if you follow this process, Preacher Johnson, didn't have the votes. He actually did not have the votes in his own caucus to bring this to the floor and keep our government open. So how did this happen? How did we get here? If Preacher Johnson couldn't control his caucus, half his caucus voted no, how did we keep our government open? They suspended the rules of the House. This was a suspension vote. And folks, with a suspension vote, it takes a 2/3 majority vote to pass a bill. This was absolutely not an assured thing. Thank you, Lucky Star. I appreciate the support. This was by far not an assured thing. But it leads to one very, very important question. Mike Johnson, who's your daddy? Who's your daddy, Mike Johnson? Who is your daddy? Who swooped in? Who saved your ass? It's Hakeem Jeffries. That's who your daddy is. That is who your daddy is. Who is your daddy, Mike Johnson? This required a 2/3 vote to pass. Mike Johnson, you remember our discussion we had about what was going to happen here. I told you one of two things was going to happen. One of two things was going to happen. Either we were going to have a shutdown and the Republicans are going to be absolutely decimated in the next election, which they are probably going to be anyways. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. This was just brilliant politics on the part of Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, brilliant politics. But the Republicans, that was what they were looking. That was the calculus they're looking at. We shut down the government going into the holidays. We cripple our workforce, tie up their paychecks going into the holidays, and face that at the polls. That's one option. Or the other option is we do a deal with Democrats and the Freedom Caucus screws Mike Johnson forever and ever. Amen. Now, the mainstream media is spinning this as, oh, he's in his honeymoon. He's going to be fine. He's not going to be fine. He is not going to be fine. As this plays out in the media, because that's what the Freedom Caucus is all about. Remember that. They are not about getting things done. They're not about governing. They're not about anything. It's all about social media and how does it play in the news. They got their nuts cut off. The Freedom Caucus was completely neutered by Hakeem Jeffries, and they know it. And the more it comes out, the less likely it looks like old Preacher Johnson is going to be a long-term speaker. Just to be clear, folks, more people in the Freedom Caucus voted no on this spending bill than did the spending bill that got McCarthy removed from office. Let me say that again. More Republicans voted no on this raise of the debt ceiling than they did on the last one where they removed Speaker McCarthy. Now, I know a lot of people are saying you don't think my Speaker Johnson's in trouble because Matt Gaetz is stupid enough to do this twice. I mean, he's just not stupid enough to do this twice. And I agree with you. He's not. He's not stupid enough to do this twice. But this and this is what was so brilliant about Hakeem Jeffries. This pushes a debt ceiling fight one out of the holidays. So what are we seeing for Democrats? What's in it for Democrats? What did we get out of this? One, we get a beautiful holiday. No stress, no nothing. Government's funded, everything's calm. And this holiday season is going to be amazing, folks. We're going to talk a little bit about inflation later, but I have to tell you, inflation is dropping. You're going to see some of the best Black Friday discounting and Christmas season discounting that you've seen in decades. The inflation we've had has people to the point where they're just not going to spend this Christmas. 54% of Americans have said they're not going to participate in Black Friday at all. At all. And retailers know it. Manufacturers know it. They know that they're going to have to discount like crazy to keep this holidays just on par with former holidays. And believe me, folks, when we take a look at corporate profits, I was going to save this for the inflation discussion, but I'll bring it up now. When you take a look at corporate profits, we know what's driving inflation. This is corporate profits from 2000 to 2022. Inflation wasn't driven by demand. It wasn't a natural supply demand discussion. It wasn't. This was uh, corporate, CEOs, CFOs taking a look at coming out of COVID, knowing that there was going to be a natural spike in inflation coming out of something like COVID, a shutdown. Whenever, it's like Woody Woodpecker coming out from winter, man. He's like, woohoo, going crazy. They knew that was going to happen. So they went all in. They jacked prices like crazy. Corporate profits have soared, but it's slowing down. It's slowing down, folks. The Biden administration has been working on what they like to call a soft landing. They didn't use every tool in the toolbox to try to choke down the economy, to bring inflation under control radically, like we saw in Russia. Again, we're going to talk about that in the future. I have another chart for you for what's going on in Russia right now. Salt and grease absolutely blame greed and inflation. Absolutely, it is blame greed for inflation. That is exactly what's been driving this. So, looking at the holidays, we're seeing inflation has dropped substantially. It's dropped substantially. Peter Campbell asks, "How far will corporate interests go to crash the economy to hurt Biden and America?" That is a real issue, folks. That going into next year, that is a real issue. This year, it is all about making money and profit. If these CEOs pull in massive amounts of money, but the holidays die, because you have to remember the lion's share, they call it Black Friday for a reason. That is when most companies go from running in the red, losing money, to making money. That's why they call it Black Friday. It's an accounting term. If these CEOs' greed screw the natural progression and path into Black Friday, in which these companies, because they wanted to be greedy, end up driving people out of the stores, those same CEOs will be paying with their jobs, not just their bonuses. They'll be paying with their jobs. A bad holiday season is a job ender for a CEO. That's not a, oh, you don't get a good bonus this year thing. That's it. You're out. You're out. That's how important these next 3 months are to these corporations. And believe me, they know. If you look at the inflation numbers, food, energy, and housing are the three big ones that drive the CPI. Those are the ones that touch us the most. Food inflation is damn near at zero. It's flat. If you look at energy prices, they've actually dropped. They've plummeted. I don't know what gas is where you're at. It's under 250 a gallon where I'm at. And I know there's going to be places in the country out in California. There are places with naturally high gas prices where I'm sure gas is still in the $4 to $5 range. It is. And don't get me wrong. I'm not making light of your gas prices when I say that. I am not. But as an indicator here in the South, it's a great indicator because we are close to the refineries. We don't have that lag. We don't have delivery costs. We don't have pipeline costs. We don't have all of that figured in. If you want a raw number as to how gas prices are going, look right here where I'm at because we are right at the spigot, man. And we had about 3 to 350 over the last several months, and then now, boom, it's dropped down to 2 to 250, and still coming down. Housing prices for the first time in a decade are flat, 0.9%. 0.9%. That's about as close to zero as you can get. 0.9% is the inflation on housing. Normally, you want all these numbers right around 2%, folks. You want a natural inflation in the economy for the economy to be healthy. Zero is bing, an eye opener to these CEOs. It's a precursor to what is going to happen in their factories, what's going to happen to the demand for their goods. Everybody usually, how many stories did we hear about eggs? I mean, how many stories did we hear about eggs? They got up to like 350 a dozen here. Some places they were outrageous. I mean, some places that people were paying over $5. I mean, eat something else, folks. Why would you pay $5 for a dozen eggs? That's insane. Why would you do that? Just do without. That's what we did. We cut back. We normally eat eggs like crazy here. Breakfast. If you've never had breakfast tacos, people, you need to come down here to Texas. Breakfast tacos are best. You get a flour tortilla, get some eggs, bacon, put it all together, a little salsa on it. Oh my God. I mean, you're talking about ambrosia. Ambrosia. And see, Courtney, she's got the the game rigged here. Courtney says she steals steals eggs from her neighbor's chicken. That's what I'm talking about. I love you people. I love you people so much. I am not kidding. Mm. And talking about people, while we're talking about you folks, I want to talk. We've got an artist in the audience. Her name's Pam Bloom. You know me, I collect mugs. I do. I collect mugs. I love mugs. I do. I'm a coffee junkie. I love mugs. Pam is an artist and a damn good one. She paints paintings and then she has those paintings transferred to mugs. And she was talking to Mrs. Texas Paul about it. And she sent me one. She sent me one. Um, you people are the nicest people. The gifts y'all send are just amazing. But I want you to see this mug. Pam, if you're in the audience, take a bow. Take a bow. Link in the comments. But look at this. This is one of her paintings that she's had transferred onto a mug. Isn't that pretty? Isn't that pretty? I'd love to see the original painting. I really would. Isn't that pretty? Anyways, thank you, Pam, for that. I appreciate it. Painters. We have painters in our audience, folks. We have painters in our audience. We have the best audience in the world. Marcia Clipper says, better be putting cheese on those breakfast tacos. Only if it's carne asada. I'm sorry. Or potato and eggs. I'm telling you, you got to get some breakfast tacos, people. Anyways, back to inflation. Back to what I was talking about. We and just one more time. I got to say it one more time. I'm sorry. Get back on topic. Who's your daddy, Mike? Who is your daddy? Say it. What's your daddy's name? Oh my God. So you got the entire Freedom Caucus voting against this bill. Okay. We know what we got out of this. We have the economy slowing down. Inflation's coming down. The CEOs, where I'm going all this talk about inflation, I want you to know what the CEOs are looking at. I want you to be in their shoes, looking at the economy, looking at Black Friday. Folks, they are going to be deep Black Friday discounts. They see our economy slowing. They do. They see our economy slowing. They know what they have to do to get those sales. When they get polling back that shows that more than half the country isn't going to participate in Black Friday, that is alarm bells for CEOs. And that's what Hakeem Jeffries was looking at. When he did this, that's what Hakeem Jeffries looking at. Because let me be honest with you folks, we didn't get cookies and ice cream in this deal. We didn't. What did we get for crossing the line and saving Republicans from themselves, which is not our damn job to do? What did we get? We got the holidays. We got to be the grown-up party. We got to go to America and say, look, folks, yeah, the lights are on, the government's functioning because of us. We did that. The Republican Party is chaos. The Freedom Caucus, half the caucus in the Republican Party wanted to put government workers off the job going into the holidays. And we didn't do that. Now, two Democrats, to their credit, I will tell you, to their credit, two Democrats. Let me introduce you to Jack Auchincloss. This is Jack Auchincloss. He's from Massachusetts. He voted no. He voted no. And this is Mike Quigley, the other guy that voted no. I figure you ought to have a face to a name. There you go. That's Mike Quigley. They voted no because they believe that in this situation, we should have driven a harder bargain. That's why they voted no. They're not turncoats. Don't send them any smoke. They didn't do this because they didn't want to keep the caucus together and all that other stuff. They didn't do that. The reason they voted no is there was no Ukraine funding in this debt deal, and there was no Israel funding in this debt deal. Respectively, Auchincloss was all about Israel funding, and Quigley was all about Ukraine funding. So yeah, we didn't get cake and ice cream in this deal. We didn't get all the things that we could have. We could have let this fail. We could have let this shutdown happen. We could have gone a couple weeks with Republican disarray, like we saw in them trying to elect a speaker. Hakeem Jeffries could have kept sticking his thumb in their eye, which is what Auchincloss and Quigley wanted. Which I don't blame them. I'm a very militant man. I believe that we should hurt Republicans every chance we get. But Hakeem Jeffries, much to his credit, has a very different vision for our policy going forward. He wants America to do well. It's that simple. He wants to let everybody in the world know we're the grown-ups in the room. So, where do you come in? We've talked about, I want you to look where Hakeem Jeffries is coming in this, why he saved Republicans. I mean, folks, they couldn't even get it to the floor. Republicans couldn't even get this to the floor. It passed under suspension rules, and suspension rules are you can't add amendments, you can't, all the rules of the House are suspended. They couldn't get it through the Rules Committee because Republicans wanted chaos. They passed it with a 2/3 majority because of Hakeem Jeffries. So you need to go to your social media, you need to go to your family members, and you need to drill into them. Democrats did this. Democrats kept our government open. Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats kept our government open. They did what they had to do to keep the lights on. They were the grown-ups in the room, and they made this happen. You folks need to be hammering that point. Not just because it's good for us, but it absolutely destroys the Freedom Caucus. It does. It absolutely destroys the Freedom Caucus. And that's the goal. That is Hakeem Jeffries' three-dimensional chess. After this, what influence does the Republican Freedom Caucus have on our politics? Now, folks, there was a bit of a risk, a calculation in this. They metastasized this cancer that is the debt ceiling. And the debt ceiling, folks, used to be necessary. It did. Back when we were in horse and buggies, it used to be necessary because it could take weeks for representatives to make it to Washington back in the day. But I could decide right now, you could decide right now that you wanted to be in Washington, D.C. You could be there in a few hours. You could be there before the close of business, folks. That debt ceiling was designed to keep the government from going nuts while people were away from Washington, D.C. It was a necessary safeguard when we were in horse and buggies. That's not necessary anymore. You can be to D.C. from anywhere in this country in a few hours. You can jump on a jet airplane and go. Hell, the government will reimburse your travel costs. So yeah, they took this cancer that is the debt ceiling, and they made two of them. We had one before, now we have two. This bill splits, and this is very important. I want you to pay attention to this. This is very, very important. This bill splits the debt ceiling. One ends on January 19th. That's the agricultural department, the transportation departments, veteran affairs, contracting, those type of things are going to come to a halt on January 19th. The rest of the government, including the military, comes to a halt on February 2nd. So, yeah, going forward, the crap burger, the shit burger that we had to eat is that now there are 2 debt ceilings. And I don't know if they'll ever get that genie back in the bottle because, as you know, the Republicans like to use the debt ceiling to blackmail us. We're going to screw up your country. We're going to screw up your government. We're going to shut down your government. We're going to cause chaos. We're going to hurt the economy. We're going to do everything we can to screw your life up if you don't give us a tax cut for Johnny Got Rocks in our billionaire frat boy club. They do it every time. Now they can do it twice. And I assure you, those Republicans are not going to willingly give that up. They're just going to spread them apart so that they can blackmail us more often. And that's the bad news. That is the bad news. The good news that we're seeing is in the economy. We just had GDP grow by almost 5%. By almost 5%, folks. That's amazing. That's amazing. Donald Trump, when he used to make stuff up and pull stuff out of his butt, used to brag about how he was going to get a 3% GDP. And that was just fictional nonsense. We just had a 5% growth in GDP. That's huge. That is huge, folks. Then on top of that, while the GDP was growing so strongly, this is what's been going on with inflation. Now, this is year over year. This is comparative to last year. This is inflation. Blue number is all items. That includes durable goods and a durable good being like an oven or a car or anything like that. The red line is all other goods if you take out the important ones that drive the CPI, which is food and energy. Um, you see the slight deviation there because we've seen a dramatic come down in the prices of food and energy, which you see the blue line is significantly lower. It's hovering around 3%. What does that mean for us? What does that mean for you specifically? How does that come home to your house? What does this mean for your house? This means next December, the Fed's going to meet. In the middle of December, the Fed's going to meet. And what the Fed does is they set the interest rate at which they're going to loan to banks, and those banks set their interest rates for you if you have a variable rate, like on a credit card or whatnot. The banks will set those, or a variable rate mortgage or something like. Will set those interest rates based on what the Fed does. The Fed likes these numbers, but they don't love these numbers. The Fed's target rate, remember I was talking about the soft landing. The Fed's target rate was 2% inflation. And until the Fed sees 2% inflation, they are not going to back off on interest rates. But this information was good enough that we are likely looking at the Fed staying still, doing nothing, punting the ball. They're not going to lower interest rates because one of the biggest complaints I had when Republicans were running the government was they cut interest rates down to nothing, which is one of the biggest tools you have in your toolbox, your economic toolbox. See, the economy does not respond quickly. Think of it like a ship at sea. If you need to turn that ship, once it starts turning, that momentum's there. If you want to change it back the other direction, that takes time and effort. It does. It just does. I should say people are very fond of saying, well, the government doesn't create jobs. Well, the government doesn't control gas prices. That's true, but the government does control interest rates and that does act as an effective throttle on the economy because when interest rates are high, you don't buy. right? I mean, if interest rates are high, hell, my own daughter has passed on. She was going to buy a house, and she's passed on buying a house because interest rates are so high. She has to buy a significantly lesser house to cover the payment. So she's going to wait. That's how these interest rates adjustments throttle our economy. And right now, what the smart guys in the room, the smart gals in the room, Janet Yellen specifically, Powell, are saying is, folks, things are moving the right direction with inflation, but it's still too high. But we're not going to raise interest rates because they're going the right direction. We don't want to over throttle the economy, which is a good thing, which is a good thing. It means the smart people are in the room doing the smart things. It means that they're holding in their holster those interest rates so that as the economy begins to slow, we don't fall into contraction. And I know this is boring. This makes your eyes glaze over. This isn't sexy. Man, this isn't the big news. This is the stuff that affects your life. This is why we elect Democrats, people. This is the sausage. This is making the sausage. This is governing. And Republicans don't want to do that. Half the Republican caucus in the House of Representatives just voted to shut our government down going into the holidays. That's who they are. That's what they are. Folks, the Republican Party right now is telling you they want to have concentration camps. They're telling you that. If they win the next election, they're going to round up, they're going to start with immigrants. But then other Republicans have said, oh no, we've got people that we need to kick out that aren't just recent immigrants. We need to just clean house. Folks, that's how they started the concentration camps. That's what the Republicans are promising you. And they're showing you to your face. They want chaos. They are more than willing to shut the government down going into the holidays. That's who they are. You have to vote. Peter Campbell, I really appreciate your support, man. Multiple times a show, bud. You are great. You really are. I always feel smarter and more informed. Thanks for texting, Paul. I try. I try to give real information, guys. Real information that you can use, not just talking points, not just, hey, we're great and they suck. No, I want you to know why. Trina Langer, I really appreciate you. Trump added 8 trillion to the debt. Now he is speaking like Hitler. Exactly. He is literally using verbatim the words that Hitler used. They're telling you who they are. Stephen Graham, thank you. GOP are the cruelty gang. Exactly. So, folks, while I want to sit here and I want to paint for you the truth, we are going to have a beautiful holiday. We're going to have a beautiful holiday because of Hakeem Jeffries, because of Joe Biden, because of the leadership they provide and their role as government in this equation. To sit here and say, oh, the government doesn't have anything to do with jobs, the government, that's a lie. That's a lie. They are part of the equation, and the people we have on the levers of power right now are doing exactly what we need them to do so that you can have a beautiful holiday season. You can go through Thanksgiving and not worry about it. There's no stress. The government's okay. The government is okay. You can go through your Christmas. The government is okay. The good news is the CEOs know they've really got to work to get you this year, man. The discounts are going to be good. The discounts are going to be good. This is going to be a good shopping season for us, folks. As tight as it's been with the inflation, it is. But never forget, never, ever, ever forget that we have a guy that a significant portion, about 25% of the country right now, wants to be our next president. Ronan Blade, Hitler is writing his speeches. That's exactly right. Ronan Blade says Hitler is writing his speeches. That is absolutely correct. He is literally reading sections from Mein Kampf and sections from Hitler's speeches, and he's doing it on purpose. He's doing it in your face to remind you who he is. To It's not even a dog whistle anymore. It is a call to the fatherland for these right wingers. And good Lord, they are on it, man. They are on it. Sherry Foster, thank you, one, for the support. $10 is a lot of money. I really appreciate it. Joe Biden has increased the GDP by almost double what Donald Trump has promised. What he promised, not what he delivered, what he promised. What he promised to do. As Joe Biden would say, there's still work to do. Let's finish the job. I would say let's finish all the jobs. That's absolutely right. Thank you. Great comment, Sherry. Great comment. And Ross, can the courts hurry up and get Trump out of the site, defund Congress? You know, I will tell you this. Um, we're going to do, I tell you what, we're going to do a whole show on that on Friday. That's the Friday show, folks, is what we're going to do. Is we're going to talk about updates on what's going on. I don't want to get torn to the side here. We're short on time, and I do want to have a roundtable at the end of the discussion. So let's get into the next subject, which is Ukraine. There's massive news coming out of Ukraine, and I want you to know what's going on. In international news, this smug looking guy right here, he has tried to put on the best face. That's Alexander Dubinsky. He is held without bail for treason in Ukraine. He is never going to see the outside of a jail cell again. This is a big freaking deal. Alexander Dubinsky, and the reason you don't see Andre Derkash here, and let me show you who Andre Derkash is. You need to put faces with it. This is Alexander Dubinsky, and this is Andre Derkash. They have been meeting with a guy I think you know. A guy I think you know. This is Andre Derkash. He and Dubinsky are Rudy Giuliani's best buddy, and they have both been charged with treason in Ukraine. Now, the reason Andre isn't sitting next to Alexander is because Andre ran home to Mother Russia. You can't make this stuff up. Giuliani's best buddy in Ukraine has fled to Russia to avoid charges that he's facing in Ukraine for treason. And it is a big deal, folks. I mean, it is a big deal. They're not just facing lightweight treason charges. You know, they were working with the GRU, which is the equivalent of our military intelligence. Not just on the Joe Biden stuff. There's another defendant. Those two are politicians. Those Dubinsky and Derkash are politicians. There's also a prosecutor by the name of Kulik, Konstantin Kulik, that has also fled the country. He is on the lam. He is in Russia hiding. They have been proven to be direct agents, not assets, agents of the GRU. That's why I'm telling you, Dubinsky will never see the outside of a jail cell again as long as he lives. And if they know enough to charge this group, they know everything about Rudy Giuliani. Everything about Rudy Giuliani. And if they know, I absolutely guarantee you, we know. The Biden administration has all the dirt on Rudy Giuliani, all of it. He was over there in 2019 and 2020, going into the election, hanging out with these guys, communicating with these guys that are agents of the GRU. Russian intelligence. This is no longer a, oh, well, Russia's got interests too, and they just funded, a campaign. What's the big deal? It's just a donation. Yada, yada. No, no, no. These people were direct agents of the GRU. This is getting real, folks. This is a big freaking deal because Russia's in trouble. Russia's in trouble. Not only have we just nailed it all the way down through Giuliani, and Giuliani's broke. Giuliani is broke. He's trying to hide assets, but they found them all. He has no money left. He's going to die a pauper. He is. He's going to die a miserable pauper. And he is not going to take that trip for Trump. Rudy Giuliani has been a self-serving ass. You remember when he was a big deal in New York? And he was going after the Italian mafia. At the same time, there were allegations that he was being bribed by the Russian mafia, and he brought no charges against the boys down in Brighton Beach. None. Mr. I break up the mafia never touched the Russian mafia, and there were allegations going all the way back into the 90s that he was being bribed by the Russian mafia. They have owned Rudy for decades. And it is all coming home to roost. This is a really big deal, folks. The fact that they've moved forward with this is no longer an intelligence operation. You need to think about that. This is their equivalent of our military intelligence infiltrating the government of Ukraine. The Ukrainian intelligence has been engaged in a counter operation against them. They have been using signal intelligence, human intelligence. They've been gathering all of the information, and they're at the point now where they're willing to take and they're opening the books. That means the operation's over. You don't go public until it's over. They've got it all. That means our CIA has it all. This is going to be great, folks. Talking about the trials going into Friday. This is going to be beautiful. Beautiful. This next election year is, I'm going to make a prediction here. This next election here, if you do the simple thing of being a ride or die Democrat, let me see my ride or die Democrats. Let me do hearts and skulls in the comments. Let me see if you're paying attention. The ride or die Democrats, where you at? If you do your thing and you just be a ride or die Democrat, fight for what you believe in the primary. Come election time, you show up, you walk in that booth, and you pull the lever. The Republican Party is gone. They will float into obscurity. This election, you'll get it done. I mean, we have fought for so long to get these treasonous traitors, bastards out of power. This is the election you will do it. And what's going on throughout the world bodes that direction. Let me give you an idea of what's going on in Russia. First of all, the war in Ukraine. Just some updates on the war in Ukraine. We've had some things happen. You know, there there's intelligence that we know. We knew that the Ukrainians had forged the Dnieper River. We knew that. It's spelled Dnipro, but it's pronounced Dnieper. We knew they had forged the Dnieper River. We knew they had beachheads on the other side, which means they are pushing. That means Crimea is gone. At that point, when they have established those beachheads and they can move through Western Crimea, that's it. It's gone. It's gone. The Ukraine will take Crimea. Even the Russians, this is what's the big deal about this. The Russians have acknowledged that the Ukrainians now control the Dnieper River. They have fjorded it, they have bridges, they have beachheads, they are across. That's the Russians telling you. The Russians don't do that. Unless it's just so patently obvious that they have to. It's like that kid that lies all the time, that just lies all the time until you finally take and put the evidence down in front of them and on the table. They finally say, okay, okay. That's what you're seeing here. And it is huge, folks. It is huge. And the Russians are desperately, remember me talking about Avdiivka? That fight isn't over. The Russians have thrown everything they have at Avdiivka. All the military analysts said a couple weeks ago, they're going to quit. That's it. They're done. They have been beaten so badly around Avdiivka. They're going to withdraw, prepare for the winter, and that's it. Nope. That is not what Russia has done. Russia has surprised the world here. They pulled reserves. You remember me talking about just how paranoid Russia is. That 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 Putin had reserves inside Russia. They fear revolutions. They fear, attacks from China. They fear attacks in the south. Uh, if you go to the Middle East and you start traveling northward, you end up in Russia. They fear attacks coming from Georgia and Azerbaijan. They're very paranoid people. They really are. Nobody in the United States is sitting here prepping for an attack from Mexico. Nobody, because it's not coming. That's not where we spend our time and money. Russia does. Russia is pulling all of those troops up. Putin went to Rostov on Don. You remember how that place became really popular? Nobody even knew it existed. It's on the Don River. It's called Rostov on Don. It's where their southern military headquarters is. It's where It's what Wagner captured in their little dust up. And I won't even call it a revolution. Um, Putin went from his little hiding bunker around St. Petersburg. I mean, he doesn't even hang out in Moscow anymore, folks. He really doesn't. Unless he's got to make an appearance, Putin is never in Moscow. He went all the way to Rostov on Don a week ago to the military headquarters there to remind these people that they needed to die rather than surrender. And the Ukrainians are obliging them at a horrific pace. So, yeah, they're going to have one more horrific battle in Avdiivka as winter sets in. And it's going to be awful. It really is, because Donetsk is everything to Putin. Donetsk falls, Putin falls. Trust me on this. You know, when you see somebody that's laid out dominoes and that first domino where they go, if Donetsk falls, the dominoes are falling. Putin will go. And Avdiivka is a village that overlooks Donetsk. From Avdiivka, they can strike Donetsk. That's why Putin is so desperately trying to retake this village that the Ukrainians have taken and held. And right now, Russia is trying to encircle it. They're just being slaughtered by the tens of thousands trying to do this. But it's not going to make a difference, folks. It's not going to make an ounce of difference what Russia throws into this, because, and I absolutely love this, because things like General Barkenfire, badass A1 Abrams, are now in the theater. They are in the AO. Ukrainian troops have been training in General Barkenfire for over a month now. The Ukrainian pilots are down in Romania. There's a town called Fatesti. It's just a little military town. in Romania. And Ukrainian pilots are now training on the F-16s. And as Trina Lango can tell you, she's from Northern Europe. There, she will tell you that all of the countries in Europe are shipping our F-16 fighters to Ukraine. What we are doing now is we're teaching them new techniques because our tanks, the Leopard 2s and the Abrams and the F-16s, are so far superior to what they've been fighting with, um, that they're having to learn new techniques. They are. the old the old Russian tanks were such crap. You basically just plowed into your enemy and hoped you lived, you know. And Abrams doesn't have to do that. And Abrams can fight mobily. It can fight laterally. It can move at 30 to 40 miles an hour and still be more accurate than your Russian opponents. Firing on the move. It's an entirely different type of tank warfare that these Ukrainians are learning right now. And I got news for you. The Leopards are diesel. They don't love winter very much. General Barkenfire loves winter. And Abrams performs better in a freaking blasted cold winter than it does in the desert, folks. The Abrams hates the desert. Yeah, it really does. It loves where it's fighting now. I mean, just on the military front, just on the military front alone. Hold on one second. There we go. Had to take care of that. Sorry, folks. Um, just on the military front alone, the Ukrainians have an insurmountable advantage. Rich Lawton, I appreciate you're always there, man. I appreciate the support, dude. You're amazing. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Texas, for the wonderful crowd here. Learned so much from everyone here. I'm glad. And you do, folks. You're the best audience there is. You people know so damn much. It's amazing. It is. I love talking to you, folks. I love talking to you, folks. I really do. But you're talking about the military advantage, but then there's also an economic advantage. There's also an economic advantage because of what's going on in Russia right now, and it is horrible. By the way, this is in a Kula class landing craft. Ukraine just took 2 more of those out with drones. Those aren't cheap, folks. Those are modern landing craft. That's not like Private Ryan kind of landing craft. These things are jet powered. They are expensive, and they just knocked 2 of them out. With the equivalent of a children's toy with explosives on it. Yeah. Russia's screwed. This is what's going on in Russia's economy. I remember I told you that the sanctions have kicked in. Russia's in a horrible economic spot right now, folks. They are in a horrible economic spot. You see the inflation back in January 2023. Okay, it was high. That was during the height of the Biden administration diplomatically pushing with all of our allies to tighten up the gaps. They've gone after what they call the gray fleet. Those are oil tankers that are shipping oil out of Russia, that aren't agreeing to the sanction has a maximum price cap of $60 per barrel for Russian oil. They were paying above that, and we know it. Our Treasury Department's gone after it. All of the actions that the president has taken has led to this. You see this dramatic drop in inflation. You think, "Oh my god, that's a good thing, right?" If you're in Russia, that's a good. No, that's a horrible thing. Snow Leopard, I appreciate you. I am 65. I want Jim Z to rock the vote. You are our hope. Amen, brother. Amen. We need those young folks turning out. Teach them to be ride or die Democrats. Teach them how to fight for their beliefs, and at the end of it, still walk in the booth and pull that lever. let's talk about this dip right here. This massive dip wasn't a good thing for Russia. That is their economy collapsing. There's no demand. The inflation vanished because there was nobody else to sell their goods to. They were sitting around in parking lots full. You know, you go to a car lot right now, a new car lot, there are no cars there. I mean, they're at the car lots all around where we're at are freaking empty. They are. I was down at the Honda dealership buying a wheel for my grandson just 2, 3 days ago, and man, they had one line of new cars in the front row. That was it. The rest of the parking lot was empty. Russia's full. They can't sell their goods. That's why inflation is plummeting, because there is no demand. That's what you're seeing in this chart. And that didn't change. What's changing, you see inflation creeping back up. And the way this ends, the way this chart ends is it goes like this and then it goes like this, straight up. That's what happens in Russia's situation. And that's what's happening. They're expecting by December to have 7 to 8% inflation. That means by January, it'll be 9 to 10, and so on and so on. And pretty soon, by this time next year, Russia will be facing 100% plus inflation because they have no one to sell goods to. Their economy has collapsed. The only thing they can do is print rubles. And, you know, the ruble's already below a penny, folks. It's trading at under a penny. 1 ruble is worth 1 penny. It's been vacillating back and forth because there are people here in the United States that have still maintained investments in Russia despite this collapse coming. Namely, this jackass right here. The pension fund in Florida lost $200 million on Russian investments. That was in 22, folks. They didn't divest. They're still putting Russia's pension fund, part of it, in Russia because they just can't quit Russia. And we know it's happening. We know it's happening. What you're seeing is the mum's the word thing on Wall Street as everybody, all the big institutions are moving out of Russia. They are. Before they tell you to get the hell out of Russia. You've seen it happens. You know how that works. You know how that works. Major institutions aren't going to announce, we think you should get out of Russia while all their money's still tied up in Russia. They're no. They're going to get their money out first. And then they're going to tell you, oh, yeah, Russia's in hyperinflation. They're fucked. They're fucked. They are. That's what's happening right now. With no demand for their goods, Russia is facing hyperinflation. Karen Laurie, I appreciate the support. Many thanks to you, Mr. and Mrs. Texas Paul, and this amazing community for giving us a voice. We will win. We will win. We will. Absolutely. Folks, get the word out. Get the word out. Preach it. Spread this message. The corporate media is not going to do it. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. The corporate media is not going to do it. We have to do it. Do it on your social media. Share this program. I appreciate you, folks. I appreciate you. I really do. If you can help out, I'd appreciate it. Keeps the lights on, keeps paying for the subscriptions where I can get this information for you. I'm grateful. Visit the Texas Paul store. I've got some new mugs coming out for the holidays. Keep checking back. I thank you, folks. I'm sorry we didn't get a round table, but it went a little bit long. I promise you Friday we will have at least a 15-minute round table. Love talking to you, folks. Y'all have a great day. Hal Sparks is on. Tony Michaels is on. Enjoy it. Enjoy your beautiful day. Thanks for being here with me.